Welcome to Stay Sparked. We are three longtime friends here to share inspiration with you, aim to light you up. I'm Betsy.
I'm Halcyon.
And I'm Giannis.
On today's episode, we have Jennifer Quest with us, helping us to delve into evolution of identity.
This conversation is filled with all kinds of sparks about personal growth and more.
And we discuss the ways we've learned to evolve gracefully from one phase into the next.
Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to Stay Sparked. We are so excited to get to be here with you today, especially because we have a very special guest today, Jennifer Quest, one of our dear, dear friends. And so we are going to explore a wonderful conversation today. And before we do that, we always love starting with gratitude. So I'd love to instigate. Halcyon, what are you grateful for today?
I am feeling so grateful to my partner, Lisa, right now. We just celebrated her 50th birthday, and she was sick for her birthday, so I'm especially grateful for the service tribute. I had her friends, many who I've never met, has made recordings for her, and it's just been such a gift to listen to these people that I've never met say these beautiful things about the person I love, and it's kind of this affirmation like, okay, this woman has not been bamboozling me. She's actually an awesome person. So super grateful for her and for the tribute service. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Lisa. We love you. How about you, Giannis? What are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for grounding, and by which I mean being outside barefoot on the land, on the earth. I did that this weekend and realized I couldn't actually remember the last time I did that, which is kind of crazy. Then I was like, when's the last time I was barefoot, like outside? I literally cannot remember the last time I was. And that's a bad habit. That is something I should be getting into. And it was so good just to be walking around in the grass barefoot. It really helped me to ground as it turns out. So yeah, very grateful for having that experience and looking forward to bringing that into a more regular practice in my life.
Earthing.
Earthing, yes.
Beautiful. Good reminder. So I might have to do that after we record.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. How about you, Jennifer? What are you grateful for today?
Well, on top of being so grateful to be here with three of my very best friends in the world, I'm so grateful for tools of self-reflection. I was preparing for today and I was thinking about all the things that I've applied to my path that have really opened my heart, opened my capacity for love and to take the lessons from the experiences that I'm having, be it workshops, books, deep conversations with friends, and so much more. But I'm just so grateful to be in a space where I have the one privilege to do so. You know, I'm not living in a state of survival, fighting for survival. I actually have the privilege to think deeply about my path, and then also just all the tools that are there for me.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really reflective and beautiful to hear.
If you're open to it, you know, there's a great podcast that I could recommend. Oh, wait. Yeah, you're on it.
Perfect. Oh, I like that. Well, I'll share my gratitude is for friends and community. You know, it's just such a beautiful part of my life, and I just cherish my friendships. Whether or not I see my people all the time, or if it's been some time, I feel just so grateful for the ways in which that the people in my life just inspire me and just remind me of so much good things happening in the world. And sometimes just taking an hour to go for a walk or tea or pop on here to get to share. I just feel like friendships are just such an incredible resource and investment of time, and just has so much return on the investment. There's just so much beauty from friends. So I love you, peeps.
No, love you.
Grateful for my peeps.
Yeah, we love you too.
Yeah. So on that note, actually, I'd love to actually get us set up for a really inspiring conversation based on how this podcast kind of got started. Because here we are, a group of friends that are getting to share conversations that aim to inspire and light you up. And so to give a little backstory, so the four of us here on this call today have known each other for probably close to 15, maybe some of us even 20 years. And we've been getting these opportunities to deepen our friendships through many different gatherings and celebrations, rites of passages, marriages, babies, even funerals. We've grieved together, we've danced together, we've laughed together, we've just had so many incredible conversations when we get together. And one day, Halcyon actually had the initial spark and said, hey, you know what? We have something really beautiful in our conversations. Let's start sharing them. And so we did it as an experiment about 1.5 years ago. And here we are getting to still share these wonderful conversations with you all. And we've had some wonderful feedback. One of the listeners over the last 1.5 years has been Jennifer. And she also has been a major contributor to so many wonderful conversations over the years that have just always left me feeling so lit up, so inspired, so just hopeful, like contemplative, just around so many different areas of thought. And so that's why we are expanding our conversation here to welcome you in, Jennifer. It's kind of like we're still at the gathering or the party or the wedding or the celebration of some kind, and now the conversation is just, you just popped in. So here we are. We are aiming to let this conversation kind of circle around a specific topic, primarily because since we've all known each other for so long, we've gone through so many different phases and changes in our personal lives, in our professional lives as well, and you especially have seemed to move quite gracefully through so many different expressions of who you are into who you've become, and also just who you are becoming. And so love to see what comes through this conversation, any inspiration that we can share with our listeners out there that can just remind us around the value of evolution. And so with that, love to inquire with you, Jennifer, around the journey from where you've been. Just a little peek around what I know is, you have been a Marine, you have been a hoop dancer, you're a mother, you've been a homeschool teacher, you're now an author, and I'm sure there's many other elements of your expression of who you've been. So maybe you want to give a little insight into the journey that you've been on, to help us better know who you are.
Oh, thank you, Betsy. I would love to. But first, I'd just like to also acknowledge, with this topic being around phases, I just think it's so cool for the four of us to be here together, because these years that we've shared have really encompassed so many phases that we've all seen each other grow through. And it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful to witness you all. And inside our friendships, I know that I have continued to grow and blossom into the next best version of myself. And for that, I'm so grateful. This has been a really cool journey to go through, reflecting on doing this podcast with the three of you and thinking about the phases in my life. I found myself really focusing from early adulthood on, as your self-awareness starts to grow, which really starts with joining the military. And then as you shared, well, let me backtrack. So when I think about joining the military, I think about some of the lessons that I got from that, which include discipline and adventure, and that adventurous spirit and stepping into the unknown, right? There's a lot of vulnerability inside of that. What's going to happen when I go to boot camp? What's going to happen once I'm in the military? And being in the military and getting to live in Okinawa, Japan, actually experiencing a brand new culture for a year of my life when I'm 19 years old, opened up my heart to the world and to myself. I kind of felt like a little bit alone before that in my life, at least on a peer level. And I found that experience of living abroad just cracked me wide open. And there's so much more inside of that. But for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to say that having that wide open heart when I got back to the States led me to this community. It led me to open-hearted people, and open-hearted people showed me dance and I wasn't on a path to become an entertainer, but I wasn't afraid of grabbing a hoop and making a mess of myself, but I just did it with an open heart and with vulnerability. Like, just here I am, and I had fun, and I was sincere about it. And that led to a career in hoop dance. And, I think of every phase that has come since, and what has kept me staying sparked really is a willingness to be vulnerable, a willingness to step into the unknown, to be seen either by myself or the outside world. And I mean, often the deepest of the deep was about seeing myself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but being willing to look. And I think when we're really willing to look at our wounds and our fears, that just takes the power right from it. You shine the light in the darkness, and then it doesn't have power over you anymore, and you can continue to step forward. So I really think that has been such a key for my life and my path. And I wanted to share this little. Oh, go ahead.
I was going. Can I before you move on too far from military, I want to ask you a question about so I met you post-military as one of the most flamboyant, fur-wearing, burner, inspiring spirits that I'd ever met. And I'm wondering, myself, when I have been a fur-wearing, bright person, there's a part of me that sometimes felt like it's unfair for me to be this out there when there's some people that have to kind of follow the rules, like even in the military way. And I'm wondering if there was some aspect of, I don't know, if you a unique awareness as you were able to play on one bright, like far edge of self-expression, knowing that you have served, you have played a role that kind of bridges what in my mind seems to be very separate mindsets and communities.
You know what? I think that I have a rebellious heart, but I also thrive on being disciplined. And I think I can weave those two together into a really multifaceted life. But I've certainly had that same sort of thought as you, and relate to what you're saying. But I think you can be both.
Great. Sorry. Hey, continue.
Don't be sorry at all. One thing that I'd like to share that I think I came across maybe 10 years ago was you could see this either on YouTube or through reading Brene Brown books, but she has a wonderful story that is actually taken from a quote by Teddy Roosevelt. And it's about being in the arena of your life. And it's one of my very favorite things, and I reflect on it often. And it's about, not paying any attention or mind to the critic, which could be your own inner critic, right? Who's holding you back from seizing the day, from chasing your dreams, from having that conversation. Or it could be the outside world, but it's about being in the arena of your life, being willing to be soaked in sweat and possibly tears and blood, but you're seizing your life right now and you're living it. And I call on that message all the time. It's, I'd say, a foundational part of me. I love that story or that quote, and I find it really empowering. But I think it's also really important to remember that sometimes being in the arena is maybe more of a cocoon. Like, that's what you really need. It's I know that there was 4 years inside of becoming a mother that I feel like I was really cocooning a lot. I was sleep deprived, which was causing anxiousness, mild depression, and not knowing where my outward expression lived. And I did have to really just cocoon and just one foot in front of the other. But that was what in the arena looked like at that time in my life. This time in my life, being in the arena is saying yes to all kinds of things. It's just being open to what's there for me, trusting myself, trusting my path, having faith in who I am, and stepping forward. And it's been varying degrees of that over the years.
I love hearing that so much, just around the metaphor of the cocoon, and kind of recognizing that there's phases and processes that we go through. So, from the outside over here, being witness to your growth and transformation, it's looks so graceful, but it's not always easy. One of you is in the cocoon, in that phase where you're really navigating being sleep deprived or anxious, or kind of different feelings that arise, it can be uncomfortable, and you can still embody a sense of grace and the transformation. So beautifully stated.
Thank you. Yeah, it has not always been easy. It has often been soaked with tears, and yet you keep going. You keep going. This is our life, and it's happening right now. And I think if we're just doing our best, that you can in every moment, and having grace with the fact that that's going to look different every day, then you're doing great. We need to stop giving ourselves such a hard time. I think that's a really common thread in humanity, and so grace is another thing that I call on frequently.
So I wanted to ask you about that cocooning period, and I'm imagining that part of that period, so much of your identity had to shift to motherhood, and I'm guessing that you had to let go of a lot of pretty identifying aspects of who you were. Can you speak to what you had to let go of and what that was like?
Yes. So it actually started just before motherhood. I don't know if the four of you remember, but the three of you, or me. I had a chest injury that occurred about a year, 8 months before Aaron and I got married. So a year-ish. And my career ended overnight. I thought it was killing me. It was a really rough experience to go through, and getting doctor support was really hard, and I felt really lost inside that phase. And there was a huge loss of identity that continued into motherhood, because once I healed my chest, I didn't have what felt like space for myself, for my expression. And I've thought a lot about that. And I think it's really important that we do allow ourselves space to feel those feelings and to grieve those losses. I really believe that feeling our feelings is one of the very most important things that we can do. And often finding a workshop to get into, or a supportive book, or a supportive friend, a place where we can safely process those feelings, are so important. But when we don't allow the feelings to happen, they just become a part of the added pain. We can either, it's just like letting our darkness see the light. We want to let that pain be seen so that we can let it pass through us, that it won't grip us anymore. So I've definitely spent time grieving. And not just that, I mean, literally one of the phases in life can be getting smacked in the face by losing a loved one. And you've all seen me lose my dad very suddenly. And that was, bam, grief phase. And now that's the phase I'll have forever. But that acute grief phase, what that's like, having the ground ripped out from under you. And I was floundering for a bit, I was going to join Betsy's power affirmation course, and I called her and I'm like, I can't, I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling something. And then I called her back and I'm like, I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. And it was such a supportive place to be while processing my grief. And I had so many realizations that came out of opening myself when I was cracked wide open, just continuing to allow the pain to be seen instead of closing myself to it, instead of putting up the wall. And that was a tremendous catalyst for growth. Of course, I wish I could have my dad back, but there's been, one of the greatest gifts in my life is the lessons that I've gotten when I allowed myself to be vulnerable inside of the experience of loss. I allowed myself to feel it. And I feel like I've come completely through it, where I have a deeper sense of faith, a deeper sense of connection to source and to myself, and an even more seize the day mentality. Seize your life because it's right now.
I'd love to just echo and highlight something so beautiful that's like sparking and hearing you, is just really recognizing that grief is a very important part of the process. Like its own phase, essentially. Like when you shared that, it was like such, okay, I guess I'm in the grief phase now, and to really embrace it and to allow it to be a part of the journey, then that can catalyze you into the next. So instead of like suppressing it or not wanting to go into the pain and the challenge that grief can bring, but really allowing it to be what it is just so beautiful. You speak so gracefully about the many different parts of our growth and evolution.
Thank you. You too, Betsy. That was a beautiful echoing of that.
Yeah, I've had discussions recently about the 5 stages of grief and how we can there's no particular order of them, but we definitely cycle through them. And it's not something that you get over. It's just something that you gain the strength to carry with you for the rest of your days. Like there's no getting over the loss of a parent or a loved one. We just kind of, for want of a better term, just rise to the occasion. And that is what our lives are essentially about. I feel if we're doing it right, it is a series of rising to the occasion. I've mentioned before on this podcast that it's an old saying that we are not human beings. We are humans becoming, and we are always becoming the next version of ourselves. And it's not always about becoming the next greater version of yourself, but just recognizing like this is the next chapter. This is the next phase, and rising and gaining strength to carry that with you. And that becomes, part of you. And you just, so by the end of our days, when we're like 120 years old or whatever, it's like you got a life thoroughly, deeply well lived. And that's what I think the goal is for all of us.
I had this vision as you were speaking, Jennifer, of not holding on, to and letting yourself feel. I had this vision of your hands being open, and so therefore you could then pick up the DJ headset and pick up the writing pen, but you can't move forward if you're not willing to be with it and be open.
Exactly. I could have stunted myself inside of what that pain felt like. Thankfully, the Power Affirmation course was a perfect place to be during that time, and I was doing a lot of reading, and just my own path and who I've been is very open-hearted and looking deeply at how I can use what's there for me for good. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that all those pieces have come together in my life that I can do that, because I know it's a lot easier said than done, right? I get that. But I believe that there's gifts on the other side when we really allow ourselves to feel whatever that is, whatever it is. That being a human is all about the feelings. So if we suppress that, we're holding ourselves back from being wholehearted.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things I'm really curious about, Giannis said, starting a new chapter, and it made me consider how you have recently embraced a new chapter. You have embraced this new path of service and writing and really stepping into authorship. And also, Halcyon mentioned you also DJ, which I forgot to mention too, which you're an amazing DJ. It's always so fun to dance to your sets. And so what my curiosity is around, how did you really find the courage, or did it take courage to embrace these parts of you? Was there any sparks of inspiration for anyone listening out there from your own experience of really stepping into the next chapter, the next phase, and finding that and embracing that and saying yes to it, claiming it?
Yes. So the becoming an author and publishing was a really cool experience, how it all went down. A good friend, Katie, had bought a course on how to become a self-published author. And it came with two classes in the one fee. And she offered it to me because she knows how much I love to write, and just felt like it would be a perfect fit. And at first I was excited by the idea, but scared, afraid that I would let her down if I didn't turn it into something. I think being a homeschool mom, it's a lot. It's a lot to make sure that I am helping Sophia with seeing her education through, being on all the time in mom mode and teacher mode. I was like, I just don't think I'm going to be able to, do this or be good at it. And I think I was putting unfair expectations of knowing what the end result was going to be before I even started. And I was having an experience of being in a transformative workshop and really in an inquiry of what I was going to do with this opportunity. And I had a moment where a song came on, and it was saying something along the lines of like, if it doesn't make you nervous, it's probably not worth it. And I just had this sort of jolt of energy that went through me. And I immediately thought of this opportunity and realized how I was deciding I would fail before I started and how out of alignment that is with who I am. And just decided right then and there I was going to take the opportunity and put sincere action. And that's my mantra really the last year and a half is sincere action with whatever I'm doing every single day. And it's totally paying off. I think I'm on book 5 now, and it's been a beautiful journey and fun. It's spicy content, so it's creating all kinds of fun conversations with people. And I've learned so much in the whole space of what it takes to publish books. And it's been a super rewarding experience, whether or not I, end up making tons of moolah or not. It's absolutely worth it. And I actually do have faith that I will succeed financially as well, as long as I continue sincere action. And that's not, I think we can get real serious about things. And that I think it stops flow. And when we stop flow, we're not going to be creating what we want. Years ago, I was listening to Alan Watts talk on the distinction between sincerity and seriousness, and it really impacted me the same way in that Brene Brown story really impacted me. And I have really since then tried to step forward with sincerity and not seriousness. And I just think the flow just opens up when you do that. And so that's something I carry with me every day. And I apply that to learning how to DJ. I'm not expecting to be, rocking EDC, but to sincerely have a good time with my peeps, to sincerely get into the beat, to sincerely allow my body to feel free and express. That's what it's about. And that's how I feel about this writing journey and publishing journey. It's just having fun with it, seeing what I can create, adding to self-confidence and self-worth and expression, and just putting myself out there and just trusting.
Woo! I am inspired. Yeah. I love the clarification of the different types of success. Like, you have successfully created 5 books. Like, you said you're going to do it, and you did it. And those ripples of that achievement have impacted many, many people, myself included. So bravo. And I just celebrate that incredible, the effects of sincere action. I too am a huge mantra of life is to be lived sincerely, not seriously. I love that. I wanted to touch on, you just dropped the word spicy content, just and kind of moved on. And I just wanted to, I've only read one of the books, and it's spicy in the way that a ghost pepper is spicy. It is scalding and hot. And so and I'm wondering, I'm very curious about the thought process or the courage or the contemplation that you had to go to before making that identity of one who writes, adult literature and connecting it to your identity as parent, as person in the community, as wife, what were the struggles or what were there in that kind of public process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I certainly went through an inquiry. Spicy romance is really the most bought on the Kindle store. So when choosing genres, I was really looking at, what do people love to read? What do they tear through? And also, who doesn't love spice, right? So, I want it to be fun for me too. But I did come across myself worrying or just contemplating, what will people think? How will people respond? Not wanting to make people uncomfortable. And ultimately, I came back to just knowing who I am, knowing, for one, I'm a grown woman. And for two, trusting that I know my moral compass. I'm proud of who I am. I don't have to justify that to anyone, really. So if anyone is uncomfortable with spicy content, I'm not offended at all if they don't want to buy or read my books. And they're even welcome to unfollow me if it bugs them, but I'm not shoving it down anyone's throat, And so, yeah, I just decided that I trust myself and that people can choose their own path, really.
Now, shove it down your throat. Is that one of your titles?
I was going to say that's not what I read. Yeah.
Well, you're pushing it a little into the erotica category, so I'm like one level below that.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
this is true.
Okay.
This is true. Yeah. I like John. I read your first offering, and yeah, definitely spicy, but very more on the sensual tip.
Mhm.
And it definitely goes places, but I really appreciated the build up. And there's a saying I like, a French saying about sex. Like, the best part about sex is the walk upstairs to the bedroom, and
Ooh.
it's like that anticipation, that build up is, the imagination does a better job than like the written word. So but it's great because you're doing both, because like there's a lot of build up and anticipation, and then once you get to the bedroom, it's like it's on, and it's it's great. It's fun. So you really enjoyed what you're putting out there.
Thank you.
I really appreciate what you shared around just stepping into your authentic expression. This is who you are, and you don't have to be apologetic about that. And I think that can go cross board for anyone that is really wanting to step into a new offering. It's like, yeah, your content might not be for everyone, but there's going to be a lot of people that it is for, and not trying to accommodate everyone, but really coming into what feels true for you. That is just such a powerful spark there. And I think a good reminder for all of us to recognize that as we keep following our hearts and following our true desires for what we want to create, then there's a pathway for that, and it doesn't have to serve everyone.
That's absolutely right. And, honestly, I haven't come across anyone who has been anything but excited about this. So that's been really fun too. That I think it's done, like it is on, as you said, Janus, when you get into those parts of the book. But I feel like it's done really in a classy way. And so any adult that's reading it is going to enjoy it. I mean, I haven't had anything other than that. But if they don't, I trust myself. I know who I am, and I don't have to. Everyone doesn't have to love me if I love myself, and I'm okay with that.
Who wouldn't love you? Come on.
Aw, thanks.
Well, I think that's also because you love yourself.
Yeah.
That's a reflection.
I find this really, and you in this chapter, really inspiring. I have a draft of a book that is edgy, and wrote it several years ago, and didn't want to make it public. And I'm not sure if I will until my dad is no longer alive. But I really appreciate the, that conviction of self-awareness, and this is who I am. And if you digest it, then it will be nourishing. It's just, I do have a lot of fear, so I appreciate hearing from you.
I actually relate to you in that way. I mean, I have like sort of life story book in mind, but also feel anxious around sharing the fullness of that. And it is extra vulnerable because it's your life, right?
Yeah.
So, both things can be true. We get to decide how out there we want to put ourselves at any given moment. And I definitely appreciate waiting till you feel comfortable to do something more edgy.
But I think there's a beautiful energetic line that you can ride by sometimes that edginess, that nervousness. I think I can't remember how you said it, but like you had a fear of doing it, therefore you knew you had to do it, and that there can be an inspiration that comes from that. This is scary. I think that's something to listen to. If it's scary, then even if it's not public, I mean, that whatever is making you scared is fuel for growth or for creativity or for something.
You're absolutely right. We're often where there's fear, we're right on our edges, right? And that is the catalyst for growth and stepping into our next version of ourselves, our next expression of ourselves, whatever it is, it's always right there on the edge. If we're sitting where it's comfortable, we're where we're at, right? We're not necessarily going to the next level.
Something that just occurred to me as a spark, pardon the out of left field question, but I'm wondering how it works for you as far as the evolution from chapter to chapter. have you ever felt, and the answer might be both, but I'm wondering is it more like for you do you get to a point where you're like, all right, I think I'm done with this particular, chapter or phase, and then you're open to whatever's next? Or do you find that you are being pulled from one chapter to the next, Do you feel like it's a moving away from something into the unknown, or are you moving towards something that is known and desired? How does that work for you? And it could be both.
You know what? I think it is both. I feel like the older I've gotten and the more wisdom I've gleaned over the years, that I can take more awareness into curating my next phase. But a lot of the time it's been a calling forward that I don't quite understand. And it's really only in the reflection backward that I can see all the pieces lining up. But speaking of that, the transitions, the in-betweens of the phases, like that can be such a tumultuous time internally. A lot of the time you're going from one place that you're used to the next. And I think that comes back into the whole allowing ourselves the time and space to grieve the loss of that phase, or just the discomfort of stepping into the unknown and being present with that. When I think about each of the phases, there was usually like an awkward part, that was happening. And that can come and go throughout the phase that you're in. But those transitionary times, it can be a lot of internal upheaval.
And finding that, I love this phrase, integration of the awkward. A lot of it awkward, and I love that fact that you're a DJ as well, because a good DJ really knows about transitions. You're beat matching and you're finding that sweet spot where you're going to be shifting into the next thing. And so getting the mindset wrapped around that and seeing how you can actually like start to bring some things to completion and then start opening up to some new things, and then allowing previous parts of who you were to inspire and impact the next versions. I know we're talking so much about your life, but also we all have gone through so many different shifts and changes. And I know personally for me, when, I shifted from being primarily a clothing designer, it took almost 2 years to complete. It was like, I knew that there was something going to be shifting and changing. Like you were speaking to that calling, something else was emerging for me. And it took quite some time to unwind my attachment to that identity and really actually go through a grieving process and saying goodbye to this part of my expression and part of my career in service to something that was ready to be birthed next. And so, I think that is such an important time to give ourselves. Sometimes it might be fast and sometimes it might take some time, and that's okay. The transition into these next phases is such an important part.
It is. That was beautifully stated, Betsy.
I'm curious, with your existing responsibilities in life, do you have commitments to yourself or practices or discipline? Like I write every morning at this time, or I DJ on weekends, or do you just kind of fit it in when you can? Do you have a practice or that you could share?
Both. I get up at 5 every day, sometimes in the 4 o'clock hour, ready to get as much done as I can before the family's up. But I always start with taking care of my body. So my workouts are always first thing, at least all my weight training or my stretching. And then I try to get work done, writing, advertising. Before hopefully Sophia's up, I usually can get an hour of work done and have taken care of my body. And then if it's a home day, I 3 days a week I homeschool, so I have her here with me. So that is primarily the focus until our schoolwork is done for the day. But when there's breaks, I'll be, handling work emails, that sort of thing. And now my off days, I really try to balance that between writing and publishing and practicing music, looking for new tracks. I'm really into my body. Like taking care of my body has been one of the most grounding things that I've done for myself really since I was in about 7th grade. I've been a motivated runner. I do cycling now and like I said, weight training, and that all really helps keep me grounded. And then I can blossom with everything else from there. But I do just really make sure I start my day early so that I I can make myself a priority while also taking care of my family and keeping that a priority too. If I don't get up early, then I start losing the ability to do the things that I want to do for myself. And I'm just not okay with that. So I get up early.
Amazing. Go girl. So inspiring.
Thank you.
Wow. My goodness. Well, there's just like so many sparks flying through this conversation. And this is just confirmation and affirmation that we got a spark many, many months ago to have you on the show. It's really was just such a yes when we started to consider we wanted to open up to expand the conversation and have different friends come in to share inspiration. And you truly have just brought so much light and inspiration to this conversation. And so love to kind of start to bring us into some closing sparks. If there's anything that anyone here would like to offer to close us out, what are some sparks?
I got a closing spark. Years ago when I first went to Burning Man, one of the most significant expansion of worldviews that I had was witnessing people that were living in ways outside of what I had learned was possible. So I thought, as you grow up as a man, I pick a lane. I can pick a white-collar job, a blue-collar job, or a stay-at-home dad. And those are kind of like my choices. And then went to Burning Man, and I saw that there's like people doing all sorts of crazy versions of all the above. And it said that the choices in life are not really a freeway, but more like a lake. You kind of decide where you want to go and head in that direction and make it work. And so I'm just feeling so inspired by your lake and the wake of your beautiful boat and all the discoveries of new inspirations as you go. And I'm just, I think that it is easy to have something like becoming a mom become like an identity that you hold as pretty exclusionary until you get to empty nest. And so it's just really beautiful to witness you holding all these different identities. And as you said, like being open, releasing the things that don't serve you and being open to the things that do. And yeah, I just am so inspired by you. I love you so much. Thank you so much for all you shared.
Oh, thank you, John. I love you too. And I mean, truthfully, I feel the same about you. I've been following and watching you since before we knew each other. Like 2005, I started seeing you and hearing you. And then I think 2006, we became tight homies. And it's just been beautiful to watch you grow and share your phases. And you inspire me daily. So thank you.
And man, well said. So something that is kind of sparked for me when like just listening to you guys just now, and this is true for Betsy as well. There is a way to kind of like it's been said that like you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything you want. And while I kind of see the truth to that a little bit, I look at you three and you guys are accomplishing a lot. And Jen, especially with, raising a child along with that, like there is a way to kind of do it all and kind of have it all. And it's a commitment to, being your truest authentic self and respecting the phases that we go into. And, and what really stuck with me, John, I don't know why it stuck with me so much, but just the idea of like, no, I start my day at like 5. So like the earlier you start, the more time you have in your day to get all these things done. And you three have all long been an inspiration for me to be like, no, it's like you can do all the things. It's just like there's a way to do it. There's always a way. And you three individually, and you in particular, Jennifer, have shown like, yeah, there's a process to make this happen and fit it all in. You literally can do it all. And as long as there's a commitment to self and commitment to authenticity, yeah, you can get it done. So that's my big takeaway from this conversation today. So thank you, Jen.
Oh, thank you, Giannis. I love that. Yeah, I would call that like discipline to the service of your dreams, right? And having integrity with what matters to you too. And I think that's pretty much what you were saying there. I really appreciate you just reflecting that onto me. And yeah, I'm feeling all warm and fuzzy. Thanks.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, I really feel so sparked just by this conversation of getting to know you on a deeper level. We have all known each other for many, many years, but rarely do we get to really create a container where we can inquire on a much deeper level around the journey that you've been on. And so thank you for your insights and your shares just on so many different elements of the journey. I was even taking some notes around just how you weave your discipline, your love for discipline, and your rebellious heart, but sincere action. Also, like realizing that you were projecting failure into something before you even started it. So many sparks. I feel excited to actually go back and listen to this conversation again. So many gems. So thank you so much for blessing us with your beautiful voice. And love to give our listeners an opportunity to find you. For many of you out there, you might already know this amazing woman, Jennifer, also previously known as Hoop Charmer and now pen name as Ember Heart. Is that right?
That's right.
And so love to give an opportunity for you to share how people out there can find you and learn more about you.
Thank you, Betsy. It's pretty easy at this point. You can just go on Amazon and search Ember Heart Books. I'm also on Instagram and I share updates there and book giveaways, book signings. That's really fun. And Instagram, Facebook. I don't have a website yet, but Amazon, I have got an author page. You can access all my books there. And if you want to sort of hear musings or quotes from the stories, Instagram's a great place to check. And just search Ember Heart Romance.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate to our listeners that is Ember with an E, not Amber with an A. So Ember with an E, Ember Heart. So.
Thank you, Giannis.
Absolutely.
How can we find you, Betsy?
Well, thank you so much. Many different platforms. Of course, the socials. You can find me on Instagram as Betsy Who. You can find my project, The Power Affirmation, online as well. It's poweraffirmation.com, where Jennifer, you spoke so beautifully about the groups that really guided us on a journey of using the Power Affirmation Journal that helps us to get in touch with our belief systems. I feel so passionate about helping people to get in touch with our thoughts and also embodiment practices. So find more of my work there. I also do one-on-one work with I like to consider it as like multi-dimensional healing work, where there's a lot of hands-on massage therapy and aerial somatics, but also some deeper intuitive processes and practices. So feel free to reach out if you'd like to get a session or just follow me. Send me a message. Love always connecting with community out there.
Beautiful. This whole episode seems to be a rousing endorsement of the affirmation journal. Our affirmation journal.
For sure.
Yeah. Well deserved. Well deserved.
Well, you can find me at lifestudent.com, a bunch of projects, but specifically if you ever want to touch base and share gratitude with me, I do it live every day at 9 and noon and 6 p.m. 9 a.m. is on YouTube on the Hug Nation channel, and noon is in Zoom at zoom.hugnation.com. I would love to connect with you.
And Giannis, how about you?
Yeah. Pretty simple for me as well. I have a nutritional supplement company called newworldnutritionals.com, spelled NU World Nutritionals. And we have a mushroom-based supplements that are good for elevating your state of mind, improving things like focus, memory, learning, retention, alleviating symptoms of anxiety, depression, PTSD, helps with all forms of, not all forms, some forms, rein it in, some forms of dementia and anything neurological. It really helps a lot with that. It's like a spa day for your brain, as it has been referred to. So you can find it and more information at newworldnutritionals.com or on all the socials as well. And you can use the code SPARKED for 10% off of all of our products.
Fantastic. What a joyful conversation this has been. I've been looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint. Thank you, Jennifer. Betsy, would you close us out with an affirmation?
Absolutely. I would love to. And before I guide us in a little affirmation, I'd love to also spark our listeners out there. If anyone out there is feeling inspired to want to have a conversation with us sometime, if you are, feeling that kind of spark of like, wow, I want to pop on and see what kind of inspiration comes through, reach out. We are in this really beautiful exploration of expanding these conversations. So we'd love to hear from you and let us know if there's any topics you'd like to hear us talk about, or if you'd like to actually be on the show with us. So we'll just welcome that. And in the spirit of this conversation of evolution and personal transformation, I will use one of the affirmations that we used very regularly in our affirmation group, which is, I love who I am and I love who I am becoming. So we can repeat that affirmation because repetition is really where the magic happens. And so if you like, you can close your eyes and just repeat it. I love who I am and I love who I'm becoming. I love who I am and I love who I'm becoming. I love who I am and I love who I'm becoming. I love who I am and I love who I'm becoming. I love who I am and I love who I'm becoming. And in the reflection of each other, I love who you are and I love who you're becoming. It's so beautiful to witness this beautiful growth process that we're all in, and so grateful to get to be here with you all. I hope you all stay sparked, and we'll look forward to connecting again soon.
Oh, stay sparked, people.
Bye.
Find us on Instagram at Stay Sparked and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Thanks so much for helping us spread these sparks.